Ari Aster, big guy for dead stuff.
Welcome back to episode 85 of Movie Rebrew Podcast. I am your host, Michael Jennison, and my guest host today, um, latte artist by day, Ari Aster fan by night. Welcome back to the pod, Ian Leak.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here again. It's been quite a long time.
Was it Buster Scruggs, the one you were on?
I don't remember what pod that was, but I remember I think I was in my mom's basement and I was like so nervous. I'd never done anything like this.
I know, I came over your
But
house with like a microphone and we went to your
uh,
mom's basement.
yeah,
Yeah. All right, so this should be a fun one. Ian is also what are you like aspiring barista?
well, I kind of dabble in, roasting coffee and, making coffee. Got a pretty nice home setup here. But yeah, I just started posting on TikTok and gaining some followers. And yeah, now I'm getting into selling coffee and, trying to quit my day job.
um, it's called bar, right? Barr.
Yeah, BARR coffee. People are a little confused by it because like it doesn't really relate to me too much, unless like you know the story. It's like so Bar is my grandma's maiden name, and she's like 92 years old and sharp as hell. And she's just like one of the greatest people I've ever met. And yeah, we were just kind of going off the bar name as kind of like a family name and kind of just launched that into a coffee brand. So we've been running with that right now.
That is cool. I think the bar name's good.
Yeah,
I just thought it was like a short, easy, like the two R's stood out. I didn't really
yeah.
think of like any meaning behind it, but that's cool. I like
I've
that.
spitballed some other ideas because like BAR is like a unit of pressure, and like that's like the standard unit of pressure for like pulling shots of espresso. So like nine
Oh,
bars is what you pull espresso at. So been thinking about adding nine to the front of bar and changing the name, playing into the coffee a little bit more.
oh no.
But yeah,
I like that double entendre right there. I think that's good.
yeah,
I think it
yeah.
works.
So I think we're gonna probably roll into that in the next rebrand. But yeah, right now got some rubber stamps made that are just bar. So we're gonna run with that for a little bit, save some money.
My coworker, he actually owns uh, a farm. He's from Ecuador originally. He owns a coffee
Okay.
farm there.
Oh,
And
that's sweet.
yeah. So he like grows his own beans and stuff. And so like he, roasts them himself and like sells them like around the pharmacy and the hospital and stuff. And
That's
he
incredible.
was yeah. And so I need to try some of his, but he was telling me about like especially South African. I never thought about this, but he was saying how like all coffee is like blends of different coffee beans. I didn't
Hmm.
realize that, especially with like South Africa, because it's like impossible to like pick like all the coffee beans kind of get mixed together. And then
Hmm.
so he's like in the roasting process, you have some beans that are probably going to get like a little bit too done and then some
Hmm.
that aren't enough. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like yeah, I think that you can buy like single origin stuff, but if you buy blends, like you're gonna get like different roast levels throughout just based on different ripeness of the beans. So like if you buy specifically like single origin coffee, you still get like beans that don't roast up evenly and they're called like Quakers. They're just beans that like weren't completely ripe or got through the roast or the processing process to get to your like your bag. Like they're just like they're beans that weren't perfect. And yeah, you see them throughout roasts too. You kind of just pick them out to, avoid any like bad flavors getting through. But yeah, no,
Are they like
it's really interesting.
smaller? Are they smaller?
Uh, Not always. Sometimes they're small, but sometimes you get a big bean that's just like completely miscolored, and it's usually something that's just wasn't dried out completely before it got sent to you. So that's yeah, that just happens in the process, and
Yeah.
you can sort through them all you want, but you can't really tell which ones are going to be good and bad
I
before
didn't know that.
roasting. So
Yeah, because he was comparing it to like a like red blend of like wine, right? I'm in Napa
okay,
right
yeah.
now, so everyone's obsessed with wine here. So that's how he was explaining
Hmm.
it to us, and I never thought about that. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
for sure. Yeah, especially because like commodity coffee, like just big brand coffee, like Folgers and stuff like that, that's like a mixed bag of different coffees throughout the world that are just probably low grade that just get tossed in a big roaster and but yeah, like if you go specialty route though, like you can get all single origin beans. So, but it's not always going to be guaranteed that it's from like the same plant or the same batch, or yeah, things get mixed together. So it's impossible to really know unless like he's the one growing the coffee. You know what I mean? So like he
Yeah.
probably could, get enough to, you know, keep it all the same.
He said he probably could, but he says it's such a pain that he doesn't do that. So, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
that checks out, especially for
yeah,
small farms, probably. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I didn't know it was. I didn't never knew that. I thought that was super interesting. Well,
Hmm.
all right, Ian. We also have beer with us today.
Oh, yes, we do.
So I was Eddington takes place in New Mexico. Ari Aster's from New Mexico. Didn't know that until this movie and looking at his Wikipedia page. I want a New Mexican beer for that reason. I went to like a very large like beer store here in Napa and I couldn't find anything. So then I opened it up to like Ian and I was just like, find something that kind of matches the theme
Uh-huh.
of what we're doing here. And so I went with Moonlight Brewing Company Death and Taxes, which is
Yeah,
it's a
I mean,
black ale. What would you go with?
so I went down the same route, kind of went for death, and I went with just classic dead guy ale. Just I think it's just like a darker ale, and I think that we're pretty much, in the same ballpark here, just same theme and pretty similar flavorings probably. So yeah, I think that we kind of nailed it, Ari Aster, big guy for dead stuff. So
Big guy for dead stuff, which will be a
yeah, no
recurring
kidding.
theme is death.
Yeah.
That's yeah. So yeah, I think maybe it was the cop out, but I could not find anything to tie it in. So
No, yeah.
I think the death theme works well here. So we'll review these beers a little bit later. But all right, Ian and I did a rewind on Ari Aster's movies up until Eddington, went over the shorts, and then kind of spent about 20 minutes on his other three feature length films Hereditary, Midsummer, and Beau is Afraid. It's a pretty good podcast. It's under the Ari Aster Rewind. Go listen to it if you like what you're hearing right now. I'm pretty proud of it. And we will get into the review of Eddington. But first, our awards correspondent, Chuck.
Beach, baby, give me your hand, give me something that I can remember.
This man prides himself on the ability to get the Oscar shorts right every year. Welcome to the pod again, Chuck.
That is correct, and I am happy to be back. We are back on the trail. It's early, but we're back on the trail.
Yeah, it is quite early. We're in July. Oscar noms probably are for another 7 months. But for those that haven't listened yet, me and Chuck did a Rounders Rewind that came out a couple weeks ago. I think we did a pretty good job. 1998 Rounders, starring Matt Damon, Ed Norton, cult classic in the poker community. If you haven't seen it yet, I think it's worth a listen. Definitely worth a watch. Rounders just in general. And then the winner of the World Series of Poker, that's why we did Rounders, was Mike the Grinder Mizraki. He's a millennial poker pro who was kind of around during the poker boom. So it's kind of fitting and kind of worked out really nicely, Chuck.
Yeah, it did. How ironic, right? And I thought the pod was a lot of fun. I thought the final table was a lot of fun. I watched all 3.5 hours of it, which is pretty short for a WSOP main event final table, but absolutely. So check that pod out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It was a fun one doing, long time coming. All right, Chuck. So my question for you, at the end of August, we are going to recap. I think me, Keegan, and Liam are going to recap the summer blockbusters. So I've been in the theaters quite a bit here watching a lot of these movies. And I'm just wondering, are any of these going to be get some noms by the time the Academy Awards nominations come out?
Yeah, I think there's some hope. I think at least below the line. F1 is one of the ones that I've seen so far, by director Joseph Kosinski, who actually directed Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. So some pedigree there. That went on to get 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. And, so it's got to be a front runner for at least some of the tech awards, sound, editing, stuff like that. So F1 we definitely want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I saw F1. That kind of screams sound when you're watching in theaters for sure. And editing makes sense. A lot of those sharp turns are really well edited in and out of the cockpit or whatever the hell they call an F1.
Absolutely. And I think there's been some racing movies that have gotten some notoriety. Ford versus Ferrari.
Ford and Ferrari. That won editing, right?
I believe Ford versus Ferrari won film editing and sound editing.
Did Ford and Ferrari get a Best Picture now?
Yes. So plenty of hope.
Not that good of a movie.
No, it's not.
It's good. I mean, that's meat eater popcorn movie to its core.
F1 or Ford versus Ferrari? I think you're F1.
Both.
I think you're F1 and I'm Ford versus Ferrari.
Spoiler alert, I loved F1.
Yeah. It's
I was pumping my fist in theaters in the front row. I watched that movie in the third row. That's how many people were in the movie theater. I watched that on the floor in the third row. The funny thing is that the movie theater was packed.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
The movie theater was packed.
No, that's cinema.
Minus the first 3 rows. And I literally bought a ticket like 10 minutes into the previews. And I was like, I guess I'm going to bite the bullet here. Kind of loved it. It's kind of worked to be that close for that movie. It was horrible and awesome.
Oh, for a movie like that, sure. Sign me up.
Yeah. Well, we're losing the plot here, Chuck. Any other summer blockbuster Oscar noms, you think?
Yeah, I mean Jurassic World, that'll probably get some love also for the some of the tech awards and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of all I got. I mean, you'll definitely see it above the line in some of these other spots. I don't know if it'll shock. I don't know if it'll shock like we've had in the past, like with some of the Marvel films and stuff. But we'll see.
Yeah,
time will tell.
Avengers and Black Panther. There's no one of those kind of movies this year. Yeah, I mean, how about the movie that we're about to review here? Do you think Eddington has any chances of any kind of noms?
I believe you've seen it. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've read, I think it's maybe a little more of a traditional maybe film compared to what Ari Aster's done in the past. Maybe a little bit. I mean, you don't want to give any spoilers away, but A-list cast, guys like Darren Aronofsky and some of these guys, they've eventually got their due right at the Academy. So we know Aster is, I think, one of the best going. So who knows? Maybe this year he breaks through.
Yeah, I'll get more into it there. But, his movies have not done well at the Academy Awards. I don't know if any of them ever gotten a nom.
No, but most of them are just traditional horror, too, or at least more so traditional horror.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think Eddington's ratings, I think it's a 67 currently on Rotten Tomatoes, so that could also potentially hinder its causes, because usually they're better reviewed than that. But I'll get more into Eddington here in just a little bit. But anything else, Chuck? Anything else on the pipeline? We talked a little bit about Cannes Film Festival last time. It's July. Any award circuit news?
Nothing major. We got Telluride coming up in about a month, and we got the Toronto Film Festival to follow. That'll be the big one to keep your eye on. Did you know the top winner in the Toronto Film Festival, the People's Choice Award, has gotten nominated for Best Picture in each of the last 12 years?
I did not know that. That is the last 12.
The last 12 top prize.
So the audience.
Like the audience winner. It's called the People's Choice at Toronto. Toronto's pedigree is incredible. So each of the last 12 have gotten nominated for Best Picture. I believe, or maybe it's 11, and it will be 12 if Life of Chuck, which we hit on last pod, if that goes and gets the nom.
All roads lead to Life of Chuck,
which should have came out last year, but there was a form of delay, and it's been out, it's been seen. I don't know if the momentum's there for it, but it's got the pedigree. But yeah, if you look it up, it's incredible. It's the who's who. If you win the top prize at TIFF, you are on your way, including two of our favorite of all time, Silver Linings Playbook and La La Land.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto Film Festival is kind of the start of award season, kind of kicks it off. Telluride to a lesser extent, but it's pretty much with Toronto. So I guess not surprising, like I heard that, because usually you see a lot of these award movies kind of come out during that time, but that's still crazy. You'd think they'd miss once. All right. So Life of Chuck, man. Still pushing
Life of Chuck beats in the final 3. It was Anora, Life of Chuck, and Amelia Perez. So I mean, and Million and Prez and Nora were only nominated for about 20 Academy Awards between them. So, still being the Tale for Life of Chuck, a little bit. We'll see.
All right. I mean, it's weird that Life of Chuck premiered in Toronto last year and is now just coming out.
Yeah, it is.
Odd thing.
Yeah.
All right, Chuck. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for coming back on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we're about a month away from Toronto, and then we're off and running after that.
We are. Well, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about then. All right, Chuck. Take care, man.
Pumped. Thanks for having me. See you next time.
Beach baby, give me your hand, give me something that I
All right,
can
thanks, Chuck. And now it's time for the main event, the Eddington review.
You can't handle the truth.
She's gone from suck to blow.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Eddington, which came out about 2 weeks ago, takes place in Eddington, New Mexico. That's why it's called that. And it takes place during 2020 COVID pandemic. And kind of has Western themes. Joaquin Phoenix once again stars in this movie like Beau is Afraid. And initial interpretation without getting into spoilers, Ian, what were your thoughts on the movie?
I thought this is another one just too long of a runtime. Personally, I thought it was a bit too long, and I thought that maybe he tipped the scale into too much political in this one. That is was my initial takeaway from this movie.
So I think he was able to handle this well.
Okay.
I actually really, really dug it. I think that it is so easy. It is political, but I think he does in a way that it's not really heavy-handed in my interpretation. And I think that it's been long enough from 2020, from the COVID pandemic, that we can kind of laugh at ourselves a little bit. And I think it does I think it does a good job of poking fun at both sides of the spectrum. And it doesn't necessarily feel very preachy. It feels like it's saying a lot of stuff, but I don't necessarily think it's beating you over the head with this is wrong, this is right. And a lot of it's played for laughs, which once again, I think we're far enough away where we can kind of laugh at a lot of the absurdity of that time period. And so I really, really dug it. This movie's got like a 65% Rotten Tomatoes. I don't necessarily see that. I loved it. I loved it. I was kind of blown away by it. I don't know. And like, it's one of those things where I haven't seen a whole lot of movies in theaters the last like 3 years. And so like, I'm finding myself really, really enjoying everything that I'm seeing in theaters. And I don't know if it's I'm just happy to be back in a movie theater or what, but man, I do think it's long, but I think it's kind of like the Midsummer thing where it's long, but it kind of flies by for me. Like, I really, really love this movie, actually. I'm going to score it here before we get into spoilers. I will say that I think if you're a huge fan of Ari Aster, I imagine you would like this movie. But like a lot of other Ari Aster movies, it is polarizing. And I do think that if you don't like political movies, you'll probably be turned off by this movie. Even though I don't necessarily think it's over the top political. It is, but it isn't. But we'll get a little bit more into that in spoilers. But I'll give this an 8.1. I love this movie. Might be my favorite thing I've seen so far in theaters this year, to be honest. Love Joaquin Phoenix's performance and all that stuff. I give it a thumbs up. I will likely watch it again. How about you, Ian? Want to give some scores before we jump into spoilers?
I personally think that this movie is a little bit lower for me. I think that I thought it was like a little slow to start, which kind of killed the vibe for me a bit. I think that the cast itself brought this movie up a lot. Like, if I didn't know the actors and didn't have such a strong cast kind of carrying it through the beginning, I'm not sure if I would have gotten there in the end. Me personally, I put this probably like a 6-7, but at the same time, I had really big expectations for what an Ari Aster film is, and I didn't really look into what this movie was about beforehand. And
I knew nothing going in, which I highly recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that helps, but there's like, okay, I have like a really big pet peeve about movies. I hate when movies are like, I don't, this isn't like really a spoiler, but like embellished like on like showing phones and like showing screens and like how like I don't know, just like the reality of like recording things and posting on social media. I don't always love like that process in movies. And I feel like this movie relies upon that kind of thing heavily. And I don't know, I didn't think it had like such like a good like Ari Aster vibe to start. It did like later on in the movie, and like I do think that the ending is like way better for me, and it pulled it together for me in the end. But I had like a hard time getting into this in the beginning half, which I think would be difficult for like the average viewer, is what like my biggest takeaway is probably
Yeah,
for a movie.
yeah.
So like I
Go
would
on.
probably put it like yeah, like six, seven for me, which
Uh,
is probably yeah where I'm at.
but a thumbs up, and you would you watch it again?
I think I would watch it again, and I think that if I saw it again, I'd probably score it higher.
Yeah.
But for me, like it didn't totally sell me in the theaters, and I think that that's like usually not like the best sign when it comes to movies. But that's just like me personally, and then I'm a huge Ari Aster fan, and I watched a lot of Ari Aster stuff going into that, and I think that maybe I just had a different expectation from this one. Uh,
Hey,
but yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it had a very like modern character feel, and like I just didn't think they didn't do a good job of like developing characters early on in my opinion. And
okay.
I thought it was just like a little confusing for like understanding exactly what was going on and the gravity of it. Sometimes like I feel like there needs to be a little bit more mystery, and I think that it was just like too straightforward and too real of a world for Ari Aster, you know what I mean? Like just starting out and like setting it like a COVID world I thought was like I just totally didn't expect that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is a hard movie to not spoil.
Uh-huh.
And so before we get into spoilers, I guess Bo is Afraid or this movie, which one do you like more? Putting you on the spot here.
I think I enjoyed Bo's Afraid more. I think
Okay. Yeah.
that I like the ambiguity of it and like the I don't know. I You didn't really understand like who Bo was, but like I don't know, there was more like suspense to it. And I feel like there was like more of an opportunity to like make it like an Ari Aster film, you know, like that big shock factor. I do think that this movie has it, but I don't know, it hit late in the movie. And I feel like where that it took a little longer to get into that than a normal Ari Aster film would. And I think that that was probably what turned me off a little bit from the start.
I think that so I try my best not to read any reviews before we talk about these movies because I try to have my own opinion. But I'm confused by this Rotten Tomato score. It's like a 65 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't read any other reviews, but I was trying to wrap my head around what is probably the negative impact of this movie. Like, well, where are people getting to a negative review here? And it doesn't sound like you're negative, but it does sound like you have some gripes with the movie, some issues. And I do think that if you're going to have issues with this movie, it is probably the runtime and the fact that this movie doesn't really feel like an Ari Aster movie for the first 70 minutes, 70% of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I kind of like that. I was
agreed.
like, wow, this is like a change of pace for Ari Aster. And then it's not. And so I kind of like that. And I guess spoilers here now. I guess we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get into spoilers because it's a hard movie not to spoil. I think another thing is the political
Yeah.
aspect. I thought the political aspect was done well, but I could see people being turned off. Because anytime you get into
Yeah.
politics, and this movie does get into politics, anytime you get into politics, you get into COVID, those are sensitive subjects. You're going to upset some people. And so it being at 65%,
Mm-hmm.
it's a controversial topic. It just is. And so I can see that. I can see that kind of coming up. Um, you and I, it sounded like we both were kind of in the instance where we didn't fully know what this movie was going in. I vaguely remember him making a COVID-19 movie, but I actually forgot about it before I went to theaters. And then when I saw May 2020 pop up, I was like, oh shit, I forgot this movie takes place during COVID. And I was super eager because I don't
Yeah.
think COVID's been done well on film yet. Correct? Like, have you seen it done well in film yet?
No, I haven't. I honestly haven't seen like COVID done in film. I've seen COVID like handled like in TV shows. I feel like
Yeah.
I've seen some like scenes like that, and it's just like yeah, the generic masks and
Yeah.
COVID test stuff. But I do think he does a good job with like the COVID thing, and it does like I was probably like a little bit more gung ho on masks and stuff than like the average person. So I thought it was like interesting to see like the hilarity of it, like waiting in line to go into the store and stuff like that. And like it does make you self like kind of laugh at yourself. And I think that we're at a point where like we can kind of acknowledge that. And like I don't think anyone was wrong back in like COVID time
No, it's one of those things where like I'm
and
still
what
mask
decisions
guy.
they made and
Yeah.
what the approach we're taking. We're in like new territory.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like,
If you're sick, I feel like it makes sense to wear a mask and like vice versa. Like during flu season, like wearing masks makes sense, and most of the world does that. Like
yeah.
East Asia and stuff like
Oh, yeah.
that. Like countries like that, just like Japan, that just like the norm for them to wear masks during sick season, or if you're sick and you're going out, wear a mask.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about being sick, wear a mask. And I think that he does a good job of like he's in a part of the world where like it's very one-sided typically, and like they had one side that was very like more progressive and one side that was like a little progressive, and but they're still in a part of the world where they're like kind of hypocritical about like having private parties and stuff like that without masks. And I don't know, I think he did a good job of like putting the reality of COVID into picture in this movie. And I think that was the first time, yeah, that I've seen that done well.
Yeah. I think, you know, I think that it's the first time I've seen it done. I think it's done well in the way that, dude, it's so highly political if you should wear a mask, if you shouldn't, like, and we can get into the debate of whether who politicized and how dumb it is that it got politicized and all that stuff. But it is, right? A lot of these stuff are like is very topical. Which side of the aisle you're on, you may agree or disagree, and whether that should be the case or not be the case. Whatever. That's not really the point of this movie. I think he did a really good job of tightroping that, and I think he does it in a way that is kind of just a lot of it's played for laughs, which Ari Aster's really good at, like making things weirdly funny, and he does a good job here of kind of doing it. And I do think that a lot of the issues that were in this to in present day, a lot of like conspiracy theories, how they became more mainstream, really COVID was kind of the origin of that, right? Conspiracy theories have always been going around, but I feel like they're way more mainstream than they have ever been. And COVID was kind of the dawn of that. So I think he did a really, really good job of kind of like digging into the conspiracy things, um, without
Hmm.
necessarily. A lot of it's played for laughs. I don't necessarily think it's heavy-handed in a sense. Maybe it's just me wanting to. Maybe it's just my interpretation of it. I just didn't necessarily think it was. Um, and then you wonder, like, are they going to get into like the race riots that happened? And they do. And you wonder how that's going to change it because he's a cop, right? And how's that going to be done? And man, like I remember sitting there 20 minutes in, and
Hmm.
I'm like, he's a police officer running for politics, and oh fuck, George Floyd, right? The George Floyd incident's about to happen, I think, and how is that going to be handled and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
I just think over and over again, I was always impressed where it felt like it was done in a way that was done okay. Like, I think the far left being like stolen land, like those jokes always landed for me, and I chuckled to myself
Hmm.
multiple times, and the conspiracy stuff always hit for me, and his his truck and how it was like
Yeah.
decked out and like conspiracy theories, like I thought that was hilarious and just ridiculous, and I really enjoyed the social
Oh
media.
my God.
I really enjoyed the social media of this. I really enjoyed how it was a lot of it was filmed on phone because like that was a big part. Twitter and the conspiracies floating around and Instagram and all that stuff was a really big part of the narrative. And I think it does a pretty good job. I mean, it's kind of the first movie I've seen of it, but I'm wondering like 30 years from now when people talk about COVID, I don't know. Are people gonna be like, you should watch Eddington? I think that is a really good capture, a depiction of what it was like. They might. I could see it. I can honestly see it. I could also just be living in the moment and just digging this movie and just liking Ari Aster and wanting to think that. But for me, I could kind of see it aging that way. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I really, really dug it. We can get more into the plot here, but I just think I think social media was so intricate about spreading false narratives and just spreading disinformation and information that to make a movie where Twitter and Instagram is kind of a character in its own right, I think it was just really genius. And like the political debate and the campaigns and stuff was just super, super cool. I dug it. It worked for me.
I think that makes sense. I guess I didn't really think about it like the fact that, how I guess, oh yeah. But yeah, no, I guess I didn't really consider the fact that like social media, like I guess we forgot that I personally like didn't think about the fact that like that did drive so much during that time in our lives, like social media was the only thing we had to connect us to the rest of the world during COVID times.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the movie like that was an intricate character. And I think that you're right about that. And it is a necessity for this. But at the same time, I feel like he was completely like negating any like respect to any sort of law. So like sometimes it felt like they weren't really trying to do the social distancing thing in this movie, which like made the I don't know the social media aspect feel a little forced. But I guess like he was a direct adversary to that stance. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, no, I do think in hindsight, like it is important to have that. But yeah, I think if I went into the movie understanding a little bit more where it started, I think I probably would have enjoyed the movie better. But I guess I didn't really know anything about the movie going into it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that it was pretty well done. At like about halfway through, like some of the stuff just gets so like intertwined, and I think that he does do a good job like getting that all put together at the end. Um, I do I do like see some like parallels to other like Hollywood movies that like I thought like I couldn't get out of my head. I thought that like it had a very like once upon a time in Hollywood movie vibe where like they got the cult involved, and I don't know that for some reason I couldn't get that out of my head. Like Austin Butler being like some cult figure. I don't know. That was like to me I thought was like maybe like a little overplayed, but I don't know. I thought that was like an interesting aspect of it.
Yeah, we can jump into the cult aspect because I think this is a big part of it. He loves cults. I just got to say that. Every movie has a
He
cult in
does.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
There is something I also want to say too before I forget. I think it's really funny that like usually the settings of these movies are something that like are like loosely tied to the real world, but also like aren't. Like Hereditary takes place into a part of the world that doesn't exist, right? But it's like loosely tied.
Yeah.
Midsummer starts in reality and then goes to this like Swedish cult that like, is just very out there. Bo is Afraid, once again, kind of starts off like a New York City apartment and then just kind of goes way off. I just think it's funny that he's like, yeah, COVID-19 was so effed up and so weird that I can just put in a city in New Mexico and it works. like
It's like it is a dystopian world in itself. Yeah.
exactly. So I thought that was super cool. But let's get into the cult. I think the cult, he loves cults. This is another cult. Austin Butler can kind of go hand in hand with a lot of these other cult leaders. I think that it was funny, right? Because these conspiracies and like these weird like putting numbers and how like finding meaning into numbers and stuff like that is something that unfortunately and weirdly is mainstream now.
It happens all the time. Yeah.
Happens all the time. It always feels like it's a good looking person who's trying to sell you on this. So I think Austin Butler did such a good job, such a fun role probably for him to play.
Well, he's so hot in Hollywood these days. Like he was like the perfect person for like that role. Like he does do a good job as a cult leader.
Absolutely. It's so believable. Emma Stone and him, I think it was a waste of Emma Stone. I didn't really like that character. I think she does a good job of playing it, but it was just like you got Emma Stone and it's a one-note character once again.
It
it's
felt
pretty
so
one-note.
beneath her.
Yeah.
Like I just like some of the scenes where like when she's like running away with the cult and like he like Joaquin Phoenix is like holding on to her. I just felt like it was such a forced like anybody could have done that scene, you know what I mean? And it just like it didn't feel like Emma Stone at all. And like she didn't deliver anything like emotional. Like I understand that like she's got kind of like this distorted view on like her past, just kind of suppressed emotional like feelings. Like she doesn't really, I don't think she really completely grasps her past. I think she's got like a lot of suppressed memories about like her abuse. And I don't think that she ever had the opportunity to like really give that drama, like really output anything spectacular. So I do think that it was a waste of a casting. And I think that she was there just to kind of carry you through some of those scenes. And yeah, she left me wanting more.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we kind of talked about a little earlier that Ari Aster kind of lets his characters kind of come to life on screen. That one did not work. That Emma
Mm-mm.
Stone character does not work. I interpret that she was, and I think it's maybe kind of obvious that she was actually abused by her dad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, and not Pedro Pascal's character. And they kind of, I guess they almost come out and say it. And I think that was a nice little plot twist. It's kind of hinted at a couple times before that, but I think it's abuse for some reason keeps kind of coming. Cults and abuse kind of keep coming up in these movies, and this is another character that's got sexually abused, and has like that subduedness to her, but it's a little bit over the top subduedness. I do
Yeah.
like how the father is almost like this like glorified figure, right? He has
Yeah. With the shrine.
has a shrine and stuff, and
Yeah. He was the
he
sheriff. He had the office. He owned
yeah, he was the
everything. And
mentor
yeah.
to Joaquin Phoenix's character. He was the husband of the Emma Stone's mom in this movie, and so like they have him on this pedestal, and they choose not to believe the fact that Emma Stone was sexually assaulted by him, and I think that just makes for that's very interesting. Unfortunately, Emma
Yeah.
Stone's
Because,
character's not, and I do think
yeah.
that easily could have been fixed. But it that is done poorly, and that's probably my biggest issue with this movie is that Emma Stone's character is just kind of a dud, and I think
Yeah. And they flow a lot of the emotion and a lot of the drama through her mom, which I
yeah.
guess was intentional. But at the same time, like, you don't waste a great actress like Emma Stone and like not like put some drama through her. So I do think that it was just like a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, and I think maybe it all could have been fixed if she had one like juicy scene, but she
Yeah.
doesn't. She doesn't have a
Just like
juicy scene.
one big monologue or
Yeah.
something where she, I don't know, tells him off or something. It's all was like kind of like sneaky behind his back and, you know, emotionless. And then I think that it was just a miss there. And I think that the mom's a great character. Like she's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
even when like she's back into play at the end, and I just think that it's like, I don't know, the mom is just even more of like a important figure in this movie than Emma Stone, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure, which I didn't see coming. Um, so he announces he's going to run for mayor via Facebook, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then
And real, very real.
and real,
Yeah.
spear of the moment, very real. I love Pedro Pascal's character.
Mhm.
I it's kind of those weird things because it's like they paint Pedro Pascal's character to be like this kind of shitty person because you think that he maybe sexually assaulted Emma Stone's character. Turns out that he was probably just like a fine politician. Like, he's a politician at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
like he was probably just like an okay guy. Like I think that he was a pretty decent dude. I think he really honestly thought that he was kind of doing what was best for his community and probably best for his political career, but he's not a highly corrupt politician when it's all said and done. Very complex, deep character. And I love his son too. His son is
Oh yeah.
awesome. Like,
He's great. I didn't connect the dots to the son being in like that first scene with Joaquin Phoenix until like later in the movie. Him and his friend like walking down the street smoking weed. I thought that was hilarious. Like later when I figured out who those guys were.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that Pedro Pascal's character is really good. And I don't think he's like inherently bad, but I think that the movie like really tries to like focus on like how big tech has its hands and like everything. And like they're really the driving factor in this whole movie because like they want someone to drive home their narrative, but then someone like Joaquin Phoenix character is like directly against them. And they get involved in all of this without getting their hands dirty, which I think is like really interesting. Just kind of showing how like this big corporate tech company is really involved more than like you really think, which I think is kind of what one of the big themes of this movie is.
Well, I think it's funny too, is that Joaquin Phoenix is like running everything against Pedro Pascal's character. Ted Garcia is Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix is Joe Cross. So this Joe Cross character is running against everything that Ted Garcia's character is fighting for. And when I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I don't want to forget this because I think it's really funny. When Joe Cross ends up winning the election, ends up becoming mayor, he still lets that big tech company make their whatchamacallit in the city, make their
Magic
data
Carp
center.
or whatever.
Yeah, still let the data center still make their thing. And that's just so classic politician. Like you run against things against them, but like at the end of the day, you kind of do exactly what they were going to do too, because at the end of the day, you just side with the money. I thought that was funny. I thought that
this is probably getting a little ahead, but like, did he allow them, or was he just the figure of the people allowing them? That's like the question mark for me at the end, because like,
that's true.
yeah, that without getting too far ahead of ourselves, like, I don't know. I think he was just a political figure at the end. I don't think he really had any like actual
can
hand
even
in
talk.
things.
Can even talk.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's try to keep this. Yeah. I needed to get that off my chest before I forgot. So let's. The first hour and a half is pretty straight.
All build.
Political drama, I guess.
Building tension, just back and forth. Yeah.
And it's Michael is the one deputy. Who's the other deputy?
Guy.
Michael and Di are kind of they look up to Joaquin Phoenix's character, Joe Cross character. I love that dynamic. And so they're trying to help the social unrest, the social movement that's happening against political the police brutality that happened with George Floyd. And I think that's really interesting because it's just like, this is a small town in New Mexico, and these cops, like, they have nothing to do with it, and they are pretty like apolitical guys, it seems like. And so I think that dynamic is interesting, but it feels like I don't really know what direction this movie's going in, and it almost is like kind of the steam's almost kind of running out. It almost feels like, it feels like there's tension building, but it almost kind of feels like the tension's almost dying down. All right. And then Joaquin Phoenix character, I believe the wife leaves, right? Emma Stone's character leaves him.
Yeah. For the cult.
Yeah. He kind of gets pushed to this point of no return. They do a good job of making it seem like maybe Michael's character would be the person who would kill Pedro Pascal's character, because he like allegedly had a relationship with a girl who's now dating Pedro Pascal's character, but like not necessarily. Like that's, I love how everything's just kind of like everyone's side of their story. I love that aspect. But the plot twist, when Joaquin Phoenix's character shoots Pedro Pascal's character and his son, is so cool. And classic Ari Aster, classic plot twist, classic. Dude, my hands were covering my face. I got scared. Yeah. I was like, those bullets were just whizzing through the house, and I was like, oh God.
Dude, and like I fucking love in a movie where you can see like a bullet flash like ahead of like the actual bullet hitting. So like those scenes were so cool. But leading into that, like him killing the homeless guy in the bar was just like the turning point. You just knew Joaquin Phoenix's character has been like just on edge and just waiting for the excuse to just send it, And like that was it.
Yeah, I forgot. He kind of snaps right there. Yeah, for sure.
I think that was like the first thing that just like made him just flip the switch. He's like, all right, well, if no one's gonna take care of this town, I'm going to. Yeah. And like he's almost like portrayed as this like dumb guy. And he kind of is. Like he goes out on a limb, and like he's a very like handy technical guy. Obviously, he can kill someone, get rid of them, no problem. But like the tribal like police guy was onto him the second like they started investigating those murders of Pedro Pascal and his son. Like those like he left a bullet behind. Like he was a sloppy guy. But like he also like wanted to take this town in his own hands. And I don't know, it's just like so interesting to see how he could like try to frame a guy, but also just completely make a sloppy mess of everything.
Yeah, no, super interesting character, because he's like kind of a good cop and kind of a disaster of a human being at the same time. Like it is very interesting. And so after those shots happen, I think, and from my interpretation of what you were kind of saying earlier, this is when it kind of turns into an Ari Aster movie, right? Like
That's
then
when
it just gets then it just
switched,
gets it just becomes so weird and out there and all of that. It's fun. Atifa comes in.
Oh my God, dude. That scene of them just absolutely blowing Michael out of the sky. Or actually they blew up
Bo.
they blew
Not
up Guy.
Guy.
And then like Michael just got destroyed and so did Joe. But like that scene and seeing them coming in the airplane, that was a cool scene. Just seeing them on the airplane just coming in. But
Yeah. So
I
it
think that
was
they like a little over embellished on like the Atifa stuff. I also read something that like maybe that was like not so real and like kind of in Joe's head, but at the same time, I don't know. I could kind of see it being real, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where it kind of gets a little bit confusing for me. And it's
Hmm.
classic. It's classic Ari Aster. It's like, what's going on here with the Antifa thing? Because it's like
Hmm.
there's the drones and there's the plane and there's the explosion and there's the snipers and all this stuff. And it's like, what's their motives? Like that's kind of where it gets all really confusing.
Hmm.
Um, the machine gun. So, but the explosion happens. Then he goes running into the house and pulls out the machine gun and just starts mowing
Yeah.
people down. It was just,
I mean, that is just peak RES. Or just
Just-
action, action, action. Yeah.
yeah. And then the son, or not the son, the friend. What's the friend's name? Brian, played by
Yeah.
Cameron. Man, Brian. I thought that character was so funny for the record. How he's
Just
like
goes full Rittenhouse on us at the end. It's just hilarious. Yeah.
so funny.
It
So
was so cliche. Another like cliche, like well that whole scene where he comes out and like shoots the guy that's coming at Joe and says, "I saved you." But like right before that, when Joe gets stabbed in the head, another classic Ari Aster headshot, like just him and his head abuse is just so good.
yeah.
That was like one of the best killing scenes I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. So good. Um, yeah, so Cross takes the knife to the head and then he is basically comatose afterwards. Essentially comatose. There's
Yeah.
a little bit, I guess, a little bit there still, but
I think he's paraplegic and just like a political figure at that point. Political puppet, I think, is what I understood.
yeah, and Emma Stone's mom is left to run the
Yeah.
city, which is hilarious because she's like the queen of conspiracies.
Yeah.
And that last scene where it's like POV of Joaquin Phoenix's character and everything's happening, and you don't know Joaquin. I love that. So you don't know Joaquin Phoenix is still alive. It's POV.
Mhm.
They're like talking about him, and you're like, I think he's still alive. I think he's still alive.
Yeah.
And then it shows him, and you're just like, hell yeah.
Well, then Michael's just centering in on him, so you know he's got the grudge. So I feel like there's more to that story that they didn't show.
Yeah.
But that scene at the end is what tells me that like the mom has all of the political power. I think that they've just used Joe Cross as like this political figure, and they basically just put him into office as like a martyr, and then they're the one. So I think that if Joe was in office and had say, that they probably wouldn't have put that data center there. But I think that the mom was probably just looking for a motive to try to like I guess get rich basically. So I think that she's always just been frustrated and probably took advantage of the situation. I think that's where like the hypocriticism comes into this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some hypocriticism, the way that it all gets resolved. Do you think, I mean, this Joe Cross character, terrible human being, right? Like, he's awful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Ted Garcia character is probably a decent guy. But
yeah, I think he was good, but also a hypocrite because he's having parties and stuff during COVID, political
true.
parties.
That's true.
So I think that Ari Aster tries to like lean into both sides being, at fault here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Joe at the end is like the general antagonist. And I think that at the end he's used as like a pawn in the bigger scheme of things.
Yeah.
I think everyone in this movie is used as a pawn from big tech. And I think that that's kind of like the overarching theme that like Ari Aster is trying to get at.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of themes here. I think where you're going is a correct call, but I think I think he's poking fun at conspiracies and how
Hmm.
they're a huge issue. I think
Absolutely.
um I think
Political misinformation. Yeah.
yeah, and the hypocrisy on both ends of the extremes on both ends, I think are also brought up. It's also, yeah, I mean, I think that's essentially it. I think there's a lot of like these are the issues. I don't necessarily think it becomes preachy, but
No, I think he did present a lot of politics, but I don't think that he really drove home and like tried to single out any one side. I think that he was just poking holes at like
yeah,
the overarching.
yeah. I think that he does a good job of kind of summing up like this was the political landscape in 2020 without being like this is what you guys should believe and follow. Yeah. So that's why I don't think it was like over the top preachy. But all right. Probably enough political conversation, Ian, here. So we'll just call it there. And the beer. Let's get into the beer before we forget.
Oh, yes.
Michaels, are you okay?
It's just beer.
What kind of beer?
I'd like a keg of beer, please.
Hey, Johnny, how about a beer, huh?
Better when I'm drunk.
How's your beer?
Let's talk Dead Guy. Dead Guy is a great beer. It's
Where-
actually
what
sneaky easy.
What city is it from?
I don't know. It's Rogue Dead Guy, and I don't know what. Let me see. Newport, Oregon. But it's surprisingly easy to drink, and at 6.8%, it packs a punch. That's for sure. I just started my fourth, so I am definitely starting to feel some type of way. But yeah, no, Rogue Dead Guy, pretty solid beer all around. I'd give it probably like a solid 8.3 out of 10. Good drink.
All right. Love that. I'm drinking Death and Taxes Black. That's what it's called. Death and Taxes Black beer. It is by Moonlight Brewery in Santa Rosa, California, which is like an hour from Napa.
Okay.
It's okay. It's
Is it heavy?
It's kind of heavy. It's a 5.3 beer. It's fine. Like I'm drinking it. I'm on my third one. They're 16 ounce beers. So like they're going down fairly easy, but I think it's a pretty average black lager. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say I'm gonna go on my way to get it again. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. A 3 out of 5,
yeah.
6 out of 10. It's just solid. It's right down the middle, solid.
I know that Rogue Dead Guy is pretty popular. I just haven't like really given it a good chance, and I think it's a solid beer. I think it's got a good reputation for a reason. So,
Yeah.
I think I'd come back to this one.
Well, I am happy for you. Mine's fine. All right, Ian. What have you watched recently?
We were watching a lot of Apple TV Plus shows recently, just in the evenings. That's kind of been what we've been watching lately, just not being able to get to theaters. But yeah, as far as movies, definitely want to see Superman. That's next on my list.
Have you seen the Owen Wilson Apple TV show?
I don't think so. Which one's that?
It's like a golf one.
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen
Put that on the
either.
list.
Heard really good things about it, and I love golf, so I think I'd really dig
Yeah.
it. It's like Ted Lasso. It was described to me as Ted Lasso, but about golf.
Okay.
I don't know anything else past that premise. I saw Superman. I'll talk about it more next podcast. We're going to talk about summer blockbusters, me, Keegan, and Liam. So I'll hold off on that for now. Though, if you have ties to Cleveland, there's so many shots of Cleveland. Like it is really cool.
Yeah.
I dug
Yeah,
that. movie.
I'm looking forward to that.
I dug that movie. I think it's worth seeing in theaters in general, but I definitely think if you have ties to Cleveland, it is. I randomly watched Big Daddy 2 days ago. We came back from the bars, me and E2, and we watched Big Daddy randomly because I think Happy Gilmore 2's on coming up. So like he had watched Happy Gilmore, so he like want to watch Big Daddy. I don't know. Big Daddy, fun fact, was I saw that movie in theaters when I was 3, maybe 4 years old with my family.
No way.
Yeah. Which is funny because that movie's about like a 4-year-old who gets exposed to like a bunch of like adult themes.
Yeah. It's a classic core memory.
Yeah. And very quotable movie. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie, but so quotable, so awesome. That movie actually ages better than I thought. Like I just actually thought it was actually really funny. I'm sure there's nostalgia wrapped into it, but I actually really dug that. That was a fun movie to watch, especially like coming back from a baseball game and kind of having a buzz. And I think that movie really plays really well in that. I also watched Seven for the first time. Me and
No
E.T.
kidding.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Seven?
Good, great movie. Yeah, Brad Pitt, right?
Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. Me
Yeah.
and E2, funny story. That's who I was visiting in San Fran. In 2016, when we were in college, we were supposed to watch that movie one night. We were supposed to like not go to the bars and stay in and watch that movie. Me and him ended up just doing Irish car bobs as like a pregame before that movie for whatever reason when we were watching it in my basement. And we did so many that we got like a buzz and we're like, let's just keep drinking. And we never watched Seven. So that was like an inside joke between us that like we need to watch Seven someday with each other. Cause like me and him like had gone out of our way not to see it. Finally saw Seven. Seven's really good. Really effed up movie though. Just like,
Oh, it is.
very dark.
Gory, gruesome kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that ending and if that ending was real or not. But
Yeah.
for a movie that came out 30 years ago, I probably could spoil it, but I'll choose not to in this moment. But yeah, I enjoyed Seven. We had to rent it. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. But
Yeah.
that is
Speaking
what I
of
saw.
other movies that came out like 30 years ago, I did watch Friday. Like when was that? That was like a month ago. Such a lighthearted, like good comedy, just a classic comedy with Ice Cube. And that was like probably the last movie I watched before I started like diving into Ari Aster stuff.
I've never seen Friday, but a young Chris Tucker too.
Oh,
I love Chris Tucker.
there's just so many quotable scenes and a lot of quotes that like I think are popular that I didn't realize came from that movie until I watched it. So I feel like that's a good watch. I understand there's sequels that are equally good, so I'll probably have to dive into those at some point.
For sure, for sure. All right, Ian, I really appreciate having you back on. This was a lot of fun. This was a really
Thanks
good,
for having me. Of course.
really good dive in Ari Aster. We got into a lot of good things here. I think we did a good job of pulling out the recurring themes. I love when you just watch a bunch of movies from the same director. Things keep coming up. With
Oh, of
Ari
course.
Aster, for sure they do. I wanted to ask you this: Ari Aster or Jordan Peele?
Oh, between the two of them?
Yeah,
Oh my God. That is really tough because I
yeah.
feel like Jordan Peele's movies are a little bit more straightforward. I think that I would take Ari Aster just because he gets you thinking more. I think that Jordan Peele's like a little after like you've seen a couple of his movies, you kind of get the idea. I feel like Ari Aster kind of keeps you on your toes. I think that he gives you more to think about. So I think I'd choose Ari Aster.
I agree. I'm Ari Aster. I think Get Out may be the best out of like all their collections of movies, but I kind of think that he's kind of remade Get Out in like some way ever since then. Kind of. Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's something to chew on there for sure. But I do think that that's a good argument and a good discussion. But I think my gut tells me Ari Aster all day. I think that gives you more to think about leaving the theater.
I think it's more broad. I think he touches into different areas more often that are just interesting. There's so many to think about with his movies. But all right, dude. I appreciate it. Any update on Bar? Any new developments? Another pop up?
I launched a website. That's the newest thing.
We'll link it in the bio at the bottom of this pod.
Sounds good. And then if you live in the Cleveland area, might try to do something end of August. My brother's coming in town. My dad's getting married. So I might try to do something that weekend, something a little low key, but also might open it up to some friends and family. So keep an eye out for that. And then probably something around Halloween time. So we're dabbling into some stuff. So yeah, we'll definitely keep it updated.
That is super cool. I am jealous. I feel like a coffee, coffee in general. I feel like coffee or a movie theater. Those would be like the two things that I'd want to run. And I wouldn't even care if it made a profit. I just think those are fun businesses to get involved in. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Coffee's a good side hustle for sure. It's good.
For sure.
I get a lot of benefits out of it. And yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely something that I've always dreamed of doing and glad to take steps in that direction. So yeah, hopefully it grows into something more. We'll see.
Love that. All right. Well, that's it for this podcast. You can follow Movie Rebrew on Instagram. I'm debating making a TikTok. You got to show me your ways on TikTok. Follow us.
Sounds good. I can definitely help in that territory.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, everywhere. Shout out to Keegan. There is no Movie Rebrew without him. I think he's going to be on the next episode. We shall see. Should be a summer movie recap with him and Liam. That is all I have. It was a pleasure, Ian. Glad to have you back on. This was a fun time.
Amazing as always. Great time.
All right, guys. Peace.
See ya.